Hello girlfriend, and welcome to my first ever masterclass of 2024. I'm so excited to be here, and no better way to start the year off than speaking to dieting, right? New year, new me, new diet vibes, and this is where I'm going to be myth busting a whole bunch of things about yo-yo dieting and what online coaches are actually keeping secret from you when it comes to dieting too. The structure and the way that this masterclass is going to run is I'm going to go through into a little bit of background in terms of my history with yo-yo dieting. And we're going to run over a few common mistakes that I see within my clients and also people within the fitness industry. Then I will be covering 4 proven strategies that coaches are actually gatekeeping from you in terms of yo-yo dieting. I do find that in the fitness industry, a lot of coaches don't actually spill the beans in terms of how you can actually overcome all of the things that you need to navigate with yo-yo dieting. So I will be talking to 4 of them today. Then after those 4 proven strategies, I will be taking you through a 6-step mini strategy to actually allow you to take action within 48 hours after this masterclass, because it's all good and well listening to this masterclass, but if you don't go and implement anything that I'm saying and actually action on things that you need to change, nothing's going to change. We all know that to change something, something needs to change. So I'm so excited to be here today. Let's get straight into it. Alright, so when it comes to my own personal story and background with yo-yo dieting, I spent many years trying to chase a certain number on the scales, which only led me to restricting my overall calories Monday to Friday, then binging a whole heap of calories Saturday, Sunday, and just repeating this cycle week in, week out. There may have been times where I did a stint of a successful deficit, but after the deficit, I just gained all the weight back, if not actually more. And this led me into the trap of always chasing the new best diet and chasing the new best physique. What I can say about yo-yo dieting was I was never successful and was never happy with my body, no matter what weight I actually was on the scales and no matter what my physique actually looked like. It led me into a rabbit hole of actually losing my period, under eating, and overtraining. I actually even got to a point when I was yo-yo dieting that I would have a graph in my wardrobe door. I would weigh myself every single day, input my weight on that graph, and if my body weight went up ever so slightly one day, I would restrict my overall calories on the next. The way that the scales made me feel actually dictated how much I would eat and how much I would exercise per day. So if we go through a quick timeline of what my background has actually looked like, I would say in around 2017 and 18, these were the 2 years where I was strict with myself Monday to Friday, then I would binge Saturday to Sunday. I would still fall in and out of deficits, but I could never sustain anything for a prolonged period of time to ever actually see any results. Then when it came through into 2019 and 2020, I went the complete opposite way. I was absolutely under eating, overtraining, and was trying to stay in a deficit all year long. I would never take myself out of quote unquote a deficit, even if I was plateauing, because I didn't have the education and knowledge around what it actually means to be in a deficit and why we can't stay in a deficit all year round. And coming full circle, once I'd finished my degree, once I had done extra further education, I realized it's not sustainable for your body to be in a deficit all year round, and that's not how deficits are meant to work. I also realized that once I'd lost my period, I needed to heal my relationship with food, and I also needed to heal my relationship with myself and my body. Come full circle, 2021, 2022, 2023 has been all about me healing my relationship with food and me actually helping others do the same. Now we're here and we're happy, we're thriving, and I absolutely want to be able to help you guys too, and hence why I've decided to make this free masterclass today, because I don't think that yo-yo dieting is ever spoken to enough in the health and fitness industry. We always speak to deficits, we always speak to dieting, but no one is willing to give you strategies to actually help you overcome and navigate being stuck in the constant cycle of dieting. Now, like I said before, I'm going to be running through 4 proven strategies that coaches are gatekeeping from you, and I'm also going to be running through a 6 mini strategy step for you to actually implement into your life 48 hours straight after watching this masterclass. But we need to go ahead and implement these things. So I will be following up with you after you've watched this masterclass to ensure that you've actually implemented something and taken something away from this masterclass. I'm so excited to hear about how this masterclass is going to help you navigate and heal your relationship with food this year. Off the back end of my story, I'm going to be covering a few common mistakes that people make when it comes to yo-yo dieting and potentially just dieting in general. Don't feel attacked, because a few of these may resonate with you, especially if you were here to try heal your relationship with food. but trust me, these are very, very common, and there's a lot of people that are probably feeling exactly the same way as you. So number one is what I was speaking to in my journey, and that is so many people try to restrict what they are consuming Monday to Friday to then just go and binge in the weekend. Now, why this doesn't work is because you try to restrict yourself so heavily that when it gets to the weekend, you have this sudden urge and sudden desire for all of these different foods, right? But if we could actually just start incorporating and build a sustainable diet for you that looks like incorporating your favorite foods throughout the whole week, you wouldn't have the sudden urge on the weekend to go consume and overeat, okay? So the biggest tip that I have here is to actually just ensure that when you're looking at your diet as a whole, we don't try to undereat and overeat or restrict ourselves and binge. We just want to ensure that we can actually build something that we're going to be able to sustain from Monday all the way through to Sunday. Common mistake number two is having a successful deficit phase and then absolutely coming out of it with no clue or education on what to do. No clue on reverse dieting, and this is where we actually have the problem that we gain all the weight back, if not even more, and then we want to go back into another deficit. So this is a really, really common mistake that I see, and it's really important to make sure that you have the education to go into a deficit but also out of a deficit. Number three is a lot of people try to eat extremely high voluminous foods that are lower in calories or palatable foods. Now, when I'm talking about this is when we're looking at high voluminous foods, this is usually a lot of fiber, fruits, and veggies because you can eat a lot of it for less calories. But when we're looking at palatable foods, these are things like all of your sugar-free supplements or your sugar-free maple syrups, xanthan gum, all of the things that you can make that are super low in calorie as well. Now, the issues with these two types of things is that it's probably going to leave you craving more. With high volume foods, you're not actually hitting all of the macronutrients, generally speaking, and you're not actually hitting all of the nutrients that your body needs to be fully satiated and satisfied and fulfilled after it should be after a meal. So when we're looking at actually consuming meals, whether we're in a deficit or not, it's actually still better for you to consume a meal that has all three macronutrients because your body's going to be satiated after that meal, not leaving you wanting more. Same with palatable foods. These things are so high in sweeteners or sugars that basically what you're doing is after you're leaving yourself wanting more. So again, instead of consuming heaps of sugar-free products and things that are going to want you leaving more, how can you actually just simplify your nutrition so that when you do consume something, you actually don't leave yourself craving more? Number four is putting foods in the good or bad basket. Now, food is fuel, and whilst I love the saying, I don't actually like it at the same time. There's going to be times where you consume food that isn't actually going to be utilized as fuel. You just want to be consuming it because you absolutely enjoy that food, right? So at the end of the day, no food is good or bad as long as you're consuming things in moderation. It's not a specific food that is going to make you gain weight. And this is where it's about the education again. And the fifth and final common mistake that I do see is trying to use 101 different diets. Now, the only reason that these diets work are because you are in a calorie deficit. So whether it's intermittent fasting, paleo, keto, whatever the diet is that you've tried, the reason it works is because you're in a calorie deficit. So when it is coming to yo-yo dieting, we don't need to try 101 diets. We actually just need to find one that is going to be sustainable and attainable for you, especially for the long run, just not for the short term. So they are 5 kind of mini common mistakes that I do see within the yo-yo dieting culture, and obviously there is 101 more. Every single person is going to be extremely individualized when it does come to healing their relationship with food and healing their relationship with dieting. So now I am going to go into 4 proven strategies that online coaches are absolutely gatekeeping from you when it comes to actually stopping yo-yo dieting for good. Now, before I get into these 4 points, I do just want to pinpoint something. The reason there is a huge dieting culture within the health and fitness industry is because that industry is a multi-mega billion-dollar company. They make so much money per year with all the new best diets that there is no reason for them to stop. And so when we're looking at information online, that's why there is so much conflicting information, because everyone has a different opinion. Some of them are scientifically proven, some of them are not, and it's really hard to actually distinguish between the 2 sources of information online. This is when it's really important. When you are taking education and knowledge from people, make sure that they have the qualifications ahead of them so they can actually be providing you with the advice that you need to be hearing. Because like I said, Google, it's hard. You don't know what's right, you don't know what's wrong, but please make sure that the sources that you're getting information from are correct. The first proven strategy that I have seen through and through with my clients and with myself is that it's not only mentally taxing throughout the deficit, it is both mentally taxing in and out of the deficit, okay? So what I mean by this is when we are going into a deficit and when we are going into a new diet, it's easy sometimes to actually be successful and to adhere to your first diet for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. But when you get to the end of the 6th week, a lot of people lose that motivation or discipline to actually keep adhering to the diet. Now, this is where they don't know how to reverse diet out. They revert back to what they were consuming prior to the deficit starting, and they gain all the weight back. Point number 1 is to please ensure when you are about to enter a deficit, know that you're not only committing to the 6 weeks of the deficit itself, know that you are committing to an actually prolonged amount of time. So it's probably going to be anywhere between 6 to 16 weeks by the time you go in and out of the deficit. Because after the deficit, we still need to continually tracking and actually being super adherent to our nutrition because we don't want to lose the results that we just gained. And again, with yo-yo dieting, this is how the constant cycle starts. We deficit, we gain the weight back, and then we go back straight into another deficit, right? And you can't stay in a deficit all year round. So the best way to actually do this is go into your deficit for the 6 to 8 weeks, reverse diet yourself back out. So when we're looking at reverse dieting, generally speaking, I will increase my clients' calories by around about 100 per week. The only reason I do this is because from a psychological behavior and factors, they start to freak out that if we increase their overall calories straight off the bat that they're going to gain all the weight back. And essentially some people could, depending on how fast that their metabolic adaptation actually adapts to the amount of calories they're consuming. So when we're reverse dieting ourselves out of a deficit, we're looking at trying to increase our metabolic adaptation to the amount of food we're consuming. So we're trying to increase our maintenance calories. Because when you get to the end of a deficit after the 6 to 8 weeks, potentially my client is on 1600 calories. Now this is not a sustainable amount of calories for her to continue consuming for the remainder of the year for this to be her maintenance. So we want to bring her maintenance calories back up to hopefully the same amount of calories that she was consuming prior to the deficit. So before the deficit, if she was consuming 2,300 calories and we've entered on 1,600 calories, it would mean it would be around about 6 to 7 weeks for us to actually reverse diet her back to 2,300 calories. So you can see now she's committed to a deficit for 6 weeks, but she's also committed to a reverse dieting phase for the 6 weeks after, which means that her whole successful dieting phase to actually be able to maintain her new body weight has been extended to 12 weeks, not just 6. Proven strategy number 2 is to actually try to reduce the amount of times we actually enter a deficit and enter a diet. So when we're looking at entering a deficit, we want to try to maintain that new low body weight for as long as possible. So in my personal opinion, we don't actually have a weight loss problem. A lot of people know how to lose weight, but we have a weight maintenance problem. No one knows how to actually prolong and sustain their new low body weight. So when we actually look from scientific research around people that have lost around about a reduction of 10% in their body weight, less than 20% could only keep that weight off for 1 year. Less than 10% could only keep that weight off for 2 years, and less than 5% could only keep that weight off for 3 years. So we don't have a weight loss problem, we have a weight maintenance problem. Now, what has been shown is after your first diet, you will lose weight at a normal rate, so 1 time speed, and then when you gain the weight back, you actually gain it back twice as fast. Now, the issue with this is the second time you go into a deficit, you actually lose weight half as fast as the first time you went into a deficit, and then when we gain the weight back, we gain it back 3 times as fast. Now, not to say that this is going to happen everyone is a very individual human being, and the issue is, again, we need to learn how to maintain that new low body weight. If you know and you can educate yourself how to do that, you won't be gaining any weight back, right? But the thing is, people aren't educated and no one has enough knowledge to know how to maintain their body weight, and so we continually keep increasing our body weight time and time again after a diet, faster and faster and faster. So the answer to this one is we need to have a weight loss strategy plus a weight maintenance strategy post your deficit. Now, point number 3 for my third proven strategy is you need support and you need the education. So many online personal trainers and fitness coaches out there aren't willing to give you the education behind why they're giving you the specific meal plan, the specific macros, the specific calories. Because what they're trying to do is keep you in their system for you to be a forever paying client. Now, what I do with my clients is after your 16-week block, I want you to have the education and knowledge to go out on your own if you feel comfortable to do so, because now I have done my job impacting and educating girls on how to make confident decisions on their health and fitness journey. So a lot of online coaches will sell you a quick 8-week fat loss program, a quick 6-week body shred program. Whilst these could potentially work, they have not given you the education to why they have programmed things the way that they did and how you can actually maintain that physique for a prolonged period of time. Because they're almost hoping that after that 8 to 6 week shred, you're gonna go out, gain all the weight back, and then you're gonna have to come running back to them. You're gonna have to give more money to them, right? So it's really, really important that you go in with a coach or with someone that can support and educate you along the way, hold you accountable as well. When you are in a deficit, you do get quite fatigued. And so this is where we find it really hard to actually make the best decisions that are aligned with our goals. So it's really important that when you are getting tired, when you're in a deficit, you've got someone to lean against, especially coming out of that deficit. There's so many times that girls will get to this end of their 6 to 8 week period of their deficit and they completely lose control because they are so mentally fatigued from the last 6 weeks. Education and support is absolutely critical when you are trying to heal your relationship with food or heal your relationship with yo-yo dieting and to stop that constant cycle of falling back into a brand new diet. Like I said, the fitness industry online is a multi-mega billion-dollar company. They don't really care about you as a person. They care about how much money the industry is making. So it's absolutely, again, important for you to find someone that has the education and the qualifications behind them to actually be able to support you as an individual human. Now, the last fourth and final proven strategy that I want to speak to today is it's not only about training and nutrition. Again, in the health and fitness industry online, there are so many people that absolutely preach nutrition and training is all that you need to cover when it comes to healing your relationship with food and yo-yo dieting. If you can't trust yourself or hold yourself accountable to help yourself heal your relationship with food, it's going to be very, very, very hard when you do slip up and you feel guilty and you can't hold yourself in self-compassion. So when we're looking at healing our relationship with food and our relationship with yo-yo dieting, we need to be able to trust ourselves that if we do slip up once, we're not going to fall back into a spiral. We need to be able to trust our coach. We need to be able to trust others to actually help and give us support. We need to be able to trust ourselves that if we do consume something, we're not going to gain 10 kg straight off the bat, right? We need to be able to actually be confident in our own body and in our own skin, entering the deficit, exiting the deficit, after the deficit, going into a new diet, right? Every single stage of your life, you're going to have to continually heal your relationship with your body because your body is forever changing. And this is where body confidence can get really hard because you're forever going to have to love a new version of yourself, but it gets easier and I absolutely promise it does. And building self-trust with food is a huge critical element when you are healing your relationship with yo-yo dieting. After those 4 proven strategies that I have seen work with my clients through and through, so just going to recap them again. Number 1 is it's not only mentally and physically taxing for you during the deficit, you need to be prepared to be mentally and physically taxed after the deficit as well. So when you're looking at healing your relationship with yo-yo dieting, please remember that entering your next diet, the only way you're going to stop the constant cycle of falling back into a new one is actually adhering to the diet straight after the deficit and having a weight maintenance strategy. Number 2 is the more deficits you enter, the quicker you're going to gain the weight back. So ensure, and it's absolutely critical, you have the education and knowledge to be able to reverse diet yourself out and have a weight maintenance strategy after you've done the deficit and actually try to minimize the amount of deficits you are going to be completing throughout the year. 3 is support and education must come from day dot, and you need to be supported and educated from someone that has the qualifications and someone that can actually help you heal your relationship with food and yo-yo dieting. Like I said, there is too many fitness coaches out there that literally just want your money, that are selling the next best thing, that are selling the next shredded ebook, are selling the next fat loss fad, right? These things make money. They don't make prolonged results. They make quick results. So then you go gain the weight back and you come and give them more money. So please be wary of that. Number 4 is it's not just about nutrition and training. It's about you as a human behind the scenes and how you actually trust yourself with food and how you trust your own body confidence, self-compassion, and self-acceptance. So what you've all been waiting for is how can you start actioning and implementing on everything that I have spoken to today. Now I'm going to be running through a very quick 6 mini step strategy for you to implement straight after this call within the next 48 hours. Number 1 is self-discovery. Please get curious about yourself. Find what triggers you in terms of dieting. Why do you keep falling back into the new best diet? Is it external pressure? Is it internal pressure? Is it because someone told you you had to? What struggles are you actually navigating at the moment, right? How many deficits did you do last year? How can you reduce that many deficits this year? Why do you feel like you need to go into these deficits? Are you struggling with potentially eating a certain food group or a certain food as a whole? Why do you feel like you're having to restrict your calories Monday to Friday? And then why do you feel like you're binging Saturday and Sunday? Get super curious. These questions are really hard to answer for someone that doesn't actually want to accept that they're stuck in a constant yo-yo dieting cycle as well. And personally for myself, I never wanted to accept that I didn't have a healthy relationship with food until I got past the point that if I didn't do something about it, my health was going to be the biggest problem in my life. Please get curious about yourself and do a lot of self-discovery, because this is going to be the easiest and quickest way for you to heal your relationship with food and yo-yo dieting. Getting really clear on what you're actually struggling with. If we try to put a band-aid or a plaster over these things and we slip up in a month, 2, 3 months time, we haven't actually healed ourselves as a whole from our starting point. And so we're always going to continue keep slipping back into our first starting point if we don't heal from our very first starting point, right? So it's critical, absolutely critical. Please find your triggers, please find your struggles. That is your first step that you can take within the first 48 hours after watching this masterclass. Number 2 is please try to educate yourself as much as possible. Find a coach that actually wants to support and educate you. Find information online that you can actually trust from institutes, or potentially ask an online personal trainer where they get their information from so we can help you find the right sources. Actually go through your Instagram following and make sure that everyone you're following has the qualifications, actually is speaking the truth, and actually is providing you with the education and knowledge that they have received prior to, and they're not just following the next best coach online as well. You will find that the health and fitness industry, some people do follow suit, and so what they hear on Instagram, that's what they talk about on Instagram. So it's really important you actually follow people that are speaking from their education, their knowledge, and you can trust and know that they have got it from a scientific source. Number 3 is find actionable and manageable and attainable steps. So what I mean by this is don't go out and say you're going to do XYZ and I'm going to change this and I'm going to do that. Small steps are big steps, right? When you're healing your relationship with dieting and with food, we need to be able to find small incremental milestones that we can actually tick off along the way. Because if your overarching goal is healing your relationship from stopping the constant cycle of yo-yo dieting, that's an amazing goal, but I can guarantee it's going to take a lot longer than you think. And so we're going to have to be able to tick off little milestones along the way so we actually don't lose interest of our goal, because again, it's going to be a prolonged journey. So how can you potentially write a milestone of, I'm actually not going to restrict my calories Monday to Friday, I'm going to eat intuitively Monday through to Sunday, which means what I eat on the weekend, I'm allowed to eat throughout the week. Potentially another goal could be is if I feel like I'm going to start another diet, how can I actually talk myself out of it and potentially see why I was going to start that diet instead. Potentially another goal could actually be sitting down and educating yourself once a week on some topic that you want to learn about, so then you know, coming full circle in a year's time, you're going to have all the education, support and knowledge to actually be able to sustain a nutritional plan that is going to work for you. Potentially your first action step could actually just be admitting that you need to be able to heal your relationship with dieting and relationship with food, because that's a big one in itself. Number 4 is find a nutritional plan and structure that is going to work for you. Now, there are so many meal plans and new diets online, but none of these are actually tailorized or individualized towards you. It is absolutely critical that when you are looking at healing your relationship with food, you get support from an individualized approach. So personally for myself, when I was healing my relationship with food, I didn't go on a meal plan. I went and worked with a dietitian and also an online personal trainer. Together we came up with the plan of me just having to hit a certain calorie target per day and increasing my fats to a certain gram per day. If I went and did a meal plan, I can guarantee that meal plan would have been nowhere near those 2 goals that actually healed my relationship with food and healed me getting my period back. So please take a personalized and individualized approach when you are looking at trying to heal your relationship, and ensure that that if you want to do a meal plan, if you want to track, everything is tailorized towards you. Now, meal plans and tracking aren't always the answer, and there's going to be times where it is needed and isn't needed. When you're looking at healing your relationship with yo-yo dieting and food and all of the things, majority of the time, most people won't do meal plans or won't track. It's more just about learning how to feel the emotions around food and feel the feels around food, how to hold yourself in compassion, how to stop feeling guilty for eating certain foods, all of these emotions that come up and play. We need to actually build mental resilience to how we are speaking to ourselves. That is also a really great starting point. So that leaves me to mini step 5, is actually being able to build self-trust, self-confidence, acceptance, compassion, all of these things. Generally speaking, this is actually just being integral and congruent to the words that you're saying you're going to do. If you say that you are going to help yourself stop feeling guilty after eating dessert after dinner, so then you have to skip breakfast the next morning, how can you stay true to your word and go, perfect, I had cake for dinner last night, but I'm still going to allow myself to have breakfast in the morning because I know that's what my body needs. Actually start doing, again, small milestones and incremental steps that are going to help you build self-trust with food and confidence in your own body. A lot of the time when it does come to dieting, a lot of people can't trust themselves that they're actually going to be able to sustain or see out their diet, right? This is why it's actually really important to have a sustainable nutritional plan that is going to be built out for you, because you're going to be able to learn to trust yourself. If you can actually build something that you can sustain and attain every single day, imagine the amount of self-trust you're actually going to be building with yourself. Once you have that self-trust that you know you can stick to a certain nutritional plan, then you can go ahead and look at doing a diet, right? But for the meantime, there is no point entering a new deficit, the new best diet to see your best new results if you know you can't trust yourself to actually sustain or see out that whole time, because again, it's not just going to be 6 weeks, it's going to be 12, 16, 18 weeks. So when you're looking at building self-trust, self-confidence, this work needs to be done prior to your next diet. Number 6 is learn to adapt. Now, again, this is what I was speaking to in terms of body confidence and in terms of food and in terms of controllables. You're not always going to be in control of where you are, on what day, what you need to consume. Yes, you can control the controllables, you can be proactive in terms of things, but you also need to learn how to be reactive. So when we're looking at implementing this step into our life, it is speaking to, okay, so tomorrow I know I'm going to be out for lunch. What can I consume that is still going to keep me aligned with my health and fitness goals? Can I potentially take my meal prep? I don't want to actually go into tomorrow feeling rushed, feeling really stressed about my lunch, and then let that spiral me for the rest of the week. It's about being proactive and learning to adapt and actually being okay with only being able to control certain things, and what's out of your control, learning to adapt with those situations. When we're looking at the 6 mini steps that you can start implementing 48 hours after this masterclass, I'm going to quickly run through them again. Number 1 is find out where you're at. Please do self-discovery. Please get curious about yourself. Number 2 is educate, educate, educate. Number 3 is find actionable steps and milestones for yourself towards your big desire and goal. Number 4 is finding a nutritional plan that is actually sustainable and attainable for you from an individualized and personalized approach. Number 5 is building a level of self-trust, self-confidence, compassion, acceptance, all of those things. And number 6 is learning to adapt. So I would say at least the first 3 or 4 you can do within the next 48 hours. Number 5 and 6 are going to come after you take those first actionable steps within the first 48 hours. So as a whole, everything I've covered today is going to be a lot of information and a lot of really good starting points for you guys to actually look at in your own health and fitness journey. My mission and impact this year is to bring as much education and knowledge as I can in a really clear cut and simplified way for you guys to actually be able to go away and action on and implement these things into your life straight away. I held myself back a lot last year in terms of how much I can actually provide to you guys. So this year is all about providing, educating, impacting, and actually just being the human that you guys need to be able to heal your relationship with food and dieting culture. I really do hope this masterclass has helped a lot. If you feel like there's anything that you want to speak through, please feel free to send me a message on Instagram. I'm more than happy to speak with you on your first actionable steps. And even if you just have any feedback, please feel free to send it through as well. So much love, girls. I hope you have the most amazing 2024, and I do hope that this is going to be the year that we cut the dieting culture and we live our most happiest and joyful lives. Bye.